Hey, it's Ray from Sober Without God, and it's Saturday book review time. If you're new to my channel, on Mondays I do videos about sobriety and my own sober journey. On Thursdays, I do videos about my deconstruction, but recently on Saturday, I've been doing book reviews. Not just book reviews, but book reviews about Stuart Woods books and the Stone Barrington series, which I'm now to book number 4, Swimming to Catalina. And I love this book. I'll tell you more about it in a minute, but Stone Barrington is the main character, and he's like a knockoff James Bond. He used to be a New York cop, and now he's a lawyer, and he sleeps around a lot, and he's got a questionable moral compass, and he owns up to it, and he says he does. In fact, if you put a woman alone in the room with him, whether she's married or unmarried or young or old, he's probably going to sleep with her. That's just how he is. And in fact, I was listening today to an audiobook with one of Stuart. I thought it was just Stone Barrington, but this author, Stuart Woods, is like 60 something books in the Stone Barrington series, but he's got several other series with some other characters in it. And in the other series I was reading, there's a character who is introduced in Reckless Abandon, which was the first book I read, who's like 70 years old. And I was listening to an audiobook, and in the first 2 pages of that book, that main character, the 70-year-old guy, he was sleeping with like a younger actress in that book. So it's not just the character. It's Stuart Woods. He's just unchained. Can't do anything about it. Stuart Woods, unfortunately, passed away in 2022. This book was written in 1998. And again, it's called Swimming to Catalina, and we find our main character at the beginning of the book concerned about the woman he was in love with 2 books ago. And in that book, the main character's his main love interest, even though he was sleeping with 2 other women at that time, that book's name was Dirt, and her name is Arrington. Now, you may find it very interesting that her name is Arrington, and Stone's last name is Barrington. And I don't know if that's just because Stuart Woods really likes the word Arrington, and so he put a B in front of it and called his character Stone Barrington, and he likes the name Arrington. In fact, someone in this book suggested that maybe Arrington didn't marry Stone because her name would then be Arrington Barrington. Possibly, but we find out that Arrington is pregnant in the last book, which was Dead in the Water, and she's also ran off in that last book with a famous actor named Vance Calder, and they ran off, and then she's been kidnapped. And that's what this whole book is about. Stone Barrington gone to find out who the kidnapper is and rescue Arrington from the clutches of this dangerous kidnapper. And also, during this book, Stone ends up in a movie. Of course he does, because he flies to LA, and he's in the middle of LA. And that's what happens when you fly to LA. You just end up as a random actor on a movie set. So he flies to LA to go track down Arrington, and he meets up with Vance to find out what happened to Arrington. And there's mob ties in the book, and he ends up in all kinds of trouble, escaping and sinking boats and out on the ocean. By the way, there were a lot of maritime references in the last book, and I did not appreciate it. And there are a few in this book, just to let you know. You can read over them, and it's not as laborious as the last book, but there's enough to let you know that Stuart Woods has some maritime experience, and he wants to throw it in your face, and he doesn't care if you like it or not. So that is what it is. And he does make love to some women. I don't know if it's really making love, but there's also an interesting passage in here. The questionable passage, Stone Barrington passage of the day, comes in my paperback book on page 193. And he's talking to a cop from LA. And then the cop says to him, by the way, Stone gets romantic with a lady who gives tours on the set, and he's been sleeping with her, and Stone finds out that this lady, Betty, has been possibly leading him around. And Stone hasn't been thinking with his brain. He's been thinking with something else. And the cop says to him, Stone, I think you're letting do your thinking, he said. And remember, doesn't have a brain. That's right. Doesn't have a brain. This one doesn't. Anyway, so quote of the day: it's not Tolstoy, it's not Walt Whitman, it's not Mark Twain. Stuart freaking Woods, baby. Great story, told well. There's also a questionable point in the book where Stone he loses interest in Betty, and he ends up hooked up with the mistress of a mobster. And so he just sees this lady, and they end up talking to each other, because that's what happens to Stone Barrington. Stone Barrington just can have lunch with a lady. Next thing you know, he's in bed with her. And that's what happens here. And they end up sleeping together, and then they spend some time together. And he literally quite says, you know what? I'm kind of tired of her, and she's messing with my investigation. So he tells the local LA cop, I need to get her out of here. I don't have room for her anymore. I'm just done with her. And do you have any place she can go? And the cop says, why, yes. I've been divorced 8 years, and my son's at college. So this lady who's in trouble with the mob moves in with this cop, and they size each other up. And of course, the woman has a say in it, and she agrees to it, and he agrees to it. And like a few pages later, Stone looks at the cop. He's like, I guess you two are enjoying each other. And he's like, yes. And she can cook. Anyway, they're passing her around like whatever, used paperback. So the book's interesting. It's like page turner, got a great story. I mean, all kinds of intrigue and stuff happens from page to page. And I enjoyed this one much more than I've enjoyed any of the last four. He quite literally gets thrown into the ocean with an anchor tied around him, and he's in trouble all the time. And there is mafia and all kinds of things going on. I would definitely give it 5 Stone Barringtons out of 5 Stone Barringtons, but that's not even the best part of the book. The best part of the book comes at the very end, when Stuart Woods is writing to his fans. And Stuart Woods, in the epilogue, well, no, not the epilogue, but in the author's note, says several things to his fans. And one of the things he says is, please do not place me on your mailing lists for funny stories, prayers, political causes, charitable fundraising, petitions, or sentimental claptrap. I get enough of that from people I already know. I love this man. He just tells it like it is. He quite literally does. He also says, if you find typographical or editorial errors in my book and feel an irresistible urge to tell someone, please write to David Highfill at HarperCollins Publishers. Do not email your discoveries to me, as I will already have learned about them from others. He also says something about it too in the interview that's on his website, which I'll go over at a later time because it's quite hilarious. But definitely recommend Swimming to Catalina if you don't mind reading about a make-believe fictional womanizer who used to be a cop and is now a lawyer and has nothing to do but run around the country and stay in hotels and nicer than you can stay in, and eat at restaurants nicer than you can eat in. So definitely worth a read. Hope you enjoyed this review of Swimming in Catalina.